All right, Kyle, I've stepped out and I've calmed myself down. We turned back over the imaginary tables I flipped.
Fun to watch you pace out there and smoke an air cigarette.
I just lit an entire carton of cigarettes on fire at once and just started.
That's what you get for waking up to the plight of others, you dumbass. Red Foreman voice.
I want to go back to sleep. So this next block takes a tremendous upswing. It does not ignore reality, but all of them, I think, give us okay, we've spent a lot of time being introspective. We've spent a lot of time centering, trying to remove ego, listening to the experiences of other people, acknowledging objective reality, real stories, real things that have actually happened and continue to happen. We see these things. And now, how can we turn these through music back into, okay, how do I exit this meditation section and re-enter reality?
Right. That's a really good framing of it. I think the other thing that we've kind of learned on this journey is how all of these problems are interconnected. You know, I hope phrases like systemic racism are not too alienating for people, and you know, I don't give that much of a shit how it makes them feel.
I know what you mean, though.
But people who are right on the fence and like maybe do or don't want to be bothered with this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I hope that learning about how deep the rabbit hole goes is one of the things that like tips people over into the right place. And if so, welcome. We welcome you with open arms.
Yeah. We do mean that.
I
We talk a big game, but yeah.
Truly, right? Like, cause if not, all of this stuff is just the echo chamber and it doesn't matter at all. Right. So
yeah.
I hope that one thing that comes out of this is people that are like challenged or made uncomfortable by it or think we're wrong or whatever. Like I want to have that conversation because I think that's part of our responsibility is to people who look like we do to do that. So these next 4 songs, I think are good reminders for us of like the posture that we should take back on, like you said, as we come out of the meditation, like what is the goal from here? Where do we go? And if you haven't heard, so the block here is really about attunement to the goal. The first one is Lift Every Voice and Sing, the, ostensible Black national anthem. There are so many versions of them. Yeah. None of them are bad. I chose the Beyonce version.
The homecoming
version yeah. Because I love the idea of like 3 white Britneys on MDMA thinking that they're going to get the fun single ladies thing. And they get like the most overt Black experience that's ever happened in the Coachella Valley. And it's a big, beautiful, it's Beyonce, right? It's like, it's so big. It feels like an angel coming down from the heavens. And it's not the whole song. It's just like 2 minutes of it. And right. It intros into another thing. But it's like, I think it's a really interesting right now orientation to the song. So please listen to this version before you have to hear it before an NFL game. Then we go into Sam Cooke's version, the original version of A Change Is Gonna Come. We covered Otis's version on Otis Blue when we talked about that. But this is the OG one, and I think deserves to be recognized as such. Then one of my favorite songs from a top 3 favorite record, stuck right at the end of Equimenize, Liberation. It's OutKast with Cee-Lo and Erykah Badu. And liberation has become such a key word that kind of like gets stuck in my mind, into This Is America by Childish Gambino. So there's a lot in there, but I think the thread is that they all kind of take on that same tone where they have 350 to 400 years of generational trauma and world weariness. And in the case of the Childish Gambino song, like, why are you guys still not paying attention to this?
It's such a mirror.
Oh my God. But in the case of especially like the middle 2 songs, The Change Is Gonna Come and Liberation, like, nope, we feel all this stuff, but we're not going to let it fester. We're going to focus out there, forward. Here is the goal. It's change, is liberation, all power to all people, and all of that stuff.
I do just want to add one thing about Change Is Gonna Come. I think it's a nice nugget to remind ourselves of what we've talked about a little bit already in terms of when you feel the festering, I should do something now, even if I don't know if it's right. I mean, this song played a pretty critical role in kicking off some important parts of cultural change.
Yep.
And Sam Cooke himself was inspired to write the song because he heard Blowin' in the Wind by Bob Dylan, and he personally felt a sense of, why is there a song about racism and a black man is not writing it? I need to do this. And then he writes the song, and it was his tipping
And in the
point.
early 60s, he said, it's been a long time coming.
Yep.
And it's, a long time since then.
And it was even Sam Cooke's tipping point into risking his white audience. I mean, that's addressed really specifically. And so, like, I think that's such a good nugget of why music is impactful and why those moments and decisions are impactful. Because here is Sam Cooke writing one of the most impactful songs that can exist related to civil rights and the soundtrack to so much of this. And he's inspired by freaking Bob Dylan. Just because Bob Dylan was willing to be persistently
That's an ally.
poignant. Yeah, right? But like it's such a messy, fumbly story for that song to come out of.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of those. If you can do something with sincerity and vulnerability, like Bob Dylan apparently in this case, like you can inspire things that are greater and more even impactful than what you've done yourself.
Yeah. You know, you make a great point about it being messy. In my day job, I work in company culture and like making work not suck. One of my favorite culture books is What You Do Is Who You Are by Ben Horowitz of Andreessen Horowitz. And he is quick to emphasize again and again in that book, like you will never reach 100% actualization as a company. Things are always going to change. Entropy is a natural part of human existence, especially when you scale it up to hundreds or thousands of people. And so I think you make a great point that like we're never going to be an anti-racist utopia, but that shouldn't keep us from doing the work. And I think that's another trap that people get into with their comforts is like, we're never going to solve it. So I'm too exhausted to even try to bother with this thing.
Yeah.
I saw a great tweet a year or so ago where somebody was like, the literal Amazon is on fire and I'm here writing about student loans. Like nothing matters. And the person quote tweeted it and they were like, I have this thought like pretty much once a day. Why do anything? And there was a teaching from the Prophet Muhammad that said, if the end of the world happens upon you when you have a sapling in your hand, first plant it. So like, no matter what, sure, 2020 is the last year. Like, don't do nothing. You know, when you die, just know that you did more than zero good. The Good Places. The Good Place on NBC. Wednesday nights at 10.
So yeah, go bury your head in these 4 songs, and then let's come back and let's talk about that last point.